Okay, we're live. I got Cody, but I don't think he's going to stay on my lap. Maybe when Patrick comes in, he will. Because nobody ever gets to see Cody because he's usually only makes appearances in Patrick's videos, and he's not always with him. Especially if Patrick goes out to the other piece of property. He doesn't take Cody with him then, but he takes Cody with him when he goes to the one just down the road, and he loves going out there. But apparently, I think he just wants Patrick right now. He's supposed to be my dog, but he loves that Patrick. Hey, what are you doing? Anyway, I thought I would try. But anyway, Patrick's going to be coming in a little bit because he's, I asked him if he would be willing. That's why I left a gap here so he can sit here. I asked him if he'd be willing to join us for this. Since some of what I want to talk about is going to have to do with the kind of stuff he does as well, but stuff that us ladies should also learn. So anyway, I, as always, like to come in a little early to say hi to everybody and give people time to hopefully get their notifications trickling in so they can join us in time for the topic. So if you're coming into the replay, just and you just want to get straight to the topic, just go ahead and move that bar over about 15 minutes, and that's about the time I should be getting into the topic if all goes well. There's a Federal Express truck going by on a Sunday. I don't think I've ever seen that before. That's why the dog is barking. So keep warm from Florida. Aren't you already warm in Florida? Or you just tell me to keep warm because I'm not in Florida? Yes, it hasn't been, well, we get these spurts of cold. It's mostly been very, 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 very wet, but that's what it's like in rain country. Our winters and our springs are the wettest, well, fall, winter, and spring, wettest time of the year. But probably the winter is the wettest. It's probably when we get most of our rains, but I don't know. There's those moments in the spring where it's just really heavy and moments in the fall. So you got USPS today. Really? I have never heard of that. That's crazy. I mean, I realize for those that celebrate Christmas, that's probably a really good thing, and that's probably why they're doing it, but I have never seen that here. Maybe on a Saturday, I might see UPS or USPS, but not on a Sunday. So that's kind of surprising. Do I pulverize my own orange peel? I do. Typically, what I do is I just put it in the blender. It works best if you're using the types of citrus that have real thin peels, like your satsumas, mandarins, and those kind. That's typically what we buy. We actually, even though I always say orange peels, we hardly ever actually buy oranges. We buy the smaller ones. We just prefer them. They always have better flavor. Satsumas, I would say, are probably our favorites. And the nice thing about that is they also have less pith on them, which means I don't have to worry about them turning out too bitter. I use them in teas and all kinds of stuff. And because they are thinner, and thank you for those, reminding everyone to give us a thumbs up. Yeah, I don't have to worry about it. You know, powder them up. I can use them in icings and for flavorings, and almost never have to deal with bitterness. So, okay, we got 10 minutes. Hopefully Patrick will be heading in here by then. If not, we will start without him, and he can join us for the other stuff. I tried setting up a second light here. I'm hoping it will help. I noticed in this room, I do turn on the overhead lights, and because this is my former dance room, we have 5 rows of 4 sets of, 5 rows of 4 sets of fluorescent lights. And that's how it was set up because it was business room. And I only turn them on when I'm shooting videos in here just to add more light. But I notice when I'm standing back there and shooting my videos, the lighting's okay just using my ring light and those. But when I'm sitting here, I don't know if it's my computer camera or what, but everything just looks more washed out. I hate the way the color looks. You know, my clothing, everything just doesn't have the pop to it that it should. But whatever. I guess as long as you can see and hear me, that's what matters. Oh, I got my mic over here. Can you guys hear me okay? I forgot to move it over here. I'm assuming you can hear me okay. I'm just here blabbing away. I'm wearing socks to keep my feet warm here in Florida. Ah, why do I keep forgetting you're in Florida? I keep thinking you're farther north than that. I don't know why. That confuses me. So, so it does actually get cold there sometimes, huh? But we do actually get snow on some winters, not all. Typically, it only lasts for a day or two. And then in the summertime, we do get sun. We actually get to see that great blazing ball of fire in the sky every now and then. It's nice when we do it. We saw sun for a little bit today, and then it got cloudy again. But yeah, there's something about, even though I love living here now, it was really hard when I first moved here. But a lot of people don't survive. What I mean by that is people go, "Oh, I love the rain. I'm going to love living in Forks." Then they move here. They usually only last a year and they move away. They realize that I like rain. I don't like rain all the time. You have to have sun. And so one thing I can say about living here is when we get sun, we really appreciate it. So it's nice. I love the way our when we took those trees out front. That's our south facing side over there. So our big living room window is facing south. And it's really nice because once we took those trees out, we get so much more winter sun coming straight in, and it's just perfect. Of course, in the summer, it's nice because the sun's up higher, so it's not shining directly in the window, making it too hot. But in the wintertime, it's perfect. And I'm sitting there editing videos, and I can actually have sun, like I was just before I came in here. I actually had sun shining on my face. It was so nice. So, because I sit on the floor, I'm weird that way. I sit on the floor. I do all my office work on the floor. This is one of the rare times I sit in a chair is when I'm shooting my live shows. So yeah, I'm just kind of funny that way. Well, the reason why is because I'm a short person. I'm only 5'0", and thus when I sit in most chairs, I have to have something to put my feet up on, or I sit on the floor. Otherwise, it's hard when your feet don't solidly sit on the ground. It's hard on the lower back. Short people will understand that one. So, you either gotta sit in a short chair or you sit on the floor or you sit on the couch with your legs tucked up underneath you. So, I know there's other short people out there that can relate to that. And I remembered my water today. Gotta have my water when I'm talking for so long straight. So got 5 more minutes. Mr. Rain better get his rear end in here pretty soon. I do have some other things though I want to talk about after we're done with the main topic, and it's in regards to my second channel, but I'll bring it up again here. So if people don't stick around and they miss it, I want to make sure you guys know that if you don't know this, I did start a second YouTube channel. So I have my Rumble channel and I've started a second YouTube channel. And that channel, I plan to try to post something on it, at least something every week, just to kind of build it up. I can't even monetize it until I have more than enough subscribers there now to monetize, but it's going to take a while before I can build up 4,000 hours of watch time. You can't monetize until you have 4,000 hours of watch time. So anyway, what I'm doing is for now, the way I'm going to do it is when I do these live shows like this, and then I make the separate videos, I'm going to take at least sometimes I make two, which is what I'm hoping to do today. And then I'll take one of those two and put it over there instead of on this channel. So anyway, that from here on out, that second channel link along with the Rumble channel link will always be in the description box. If you'd like to go subscribe and help give that channel a boost. It's just been so strange here on this channel. So strange. I'm still doing research. I'm still trying to figure out what else could be the problem, but everything I can learn from YouTube does not They're not, they claim they don't do this, that, and the other thing, but it's like, well, I've got subscribers, followers, and myself that can attest these certain things are happening. Just like more recently, people sharing how they can't even comment on my videos a lot of the times. The comment section, I don't know if it's that the comment section is missing or the comment box, like where you could go in there and comment. They can't comment, though they have said when they refresh, they can comment. Or they can't they can't subscribe if they're new or if they've been unsubscribed, like happens over and over and over again. And I can tell a lot of my regular followers are being unsubscribed. It's the one it what I'm learning though is the ones that get unsubscribed by YouTube are the ones that don't actively participate. So if you're not watching at least a few videos a week and liking those videos and commenting, you're going to be more apt to get unsubscribed. And if you don't know you've been unsubscribed, you won't see my content showing up in your feed. Obviously, not even in your subscription feed because, well, you're no longer subscribed. So, like I keep telling people, I've had so many people say, "Where have you been? I've been wondering where you're at," and blah, 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 all the time. Whether it be an email or they happen to see a post pop up and it's like, "I haven't seen you in months." It's like, yeah, I know. I know. But anyway, I'm still going to plug away and I'm still going to do what I can, but I'm not going to try to pour in extra hours. I'm just going to have faith that if my channel needs to be taken away, it needs to be taken away. And if I'm supposed to stay, things will work out. So it's just hard to know. It's just this, especially in the past month, things have gotten especially strange, just really, really strange. And I don't understand it. It could be because they put a new warning on my account, but this didn't happen when I got that first warning. So this is just very different. And I don't know. And I still got about another the warnings for like for 90 days and I think I got like another 58 or less days. I think let's see, what is the date? I think the warning gets lifted on January 28th. So I'm wondering if maybe once the warning is lifted, things will get better. But it's just, like I said, it's very strange. I don't get it. I don't understand. I'm just like, okay, Lord, you're either trying to test me or trying to get me prepared for just letting my channel go altogether, or I don't know. I just got to keep moving ahead as I feel led, as I feel like He's leading me, and not push myself harder than I'm already pushing it because I still have other responsibilities. I don't have. I've got grandbabies. I've got chores. I've got other things I got to do and get done and create and make. And I can't. YouTube's already a full-time job. I don't want to have two full-time jobs on top of the other things that I need to do. So God will provide no matter what happens. Anyway, it's getting close. Patrick is not in here. He is terrible at actually watching the time. I told him, I said, you can either come in now or you can come in about 15 minutes. So knowing him, he'll realize it because when he gets in I'm sure most of you can understand this. When you get in the middle of something that you're trying to get done, you think, okay, I'm just going to do this for 5 minutes. And next thing you know, you've already been working on it for 15 minutes, a half an hour. And it's like, whoa, where'd the time go? Because you're focused. You want to get the job done. So I know I'm that way. And then it's like, wow. But one thing I can say I really appreciate is that, yeah, see, here's Defrost says, I have been unsubscribed several times. I think there's people out there that don't believe me that this happens. But it does. And I can attest to what happened to me with channels I follow. It's like bizarro. Anyway, I see there's other short people that can understand the shortness of being short. Okay, that was silly. So anyway, what do we got? Oh, it still says I have 2 minutes. I try to stick to a schedule. That's me. That's part of the reason why I'm always on early, because I am the kind of person that absolutely despises being late to anything and often usually shows up way too early. And so I have to, be careful not to be too early. Yeah. But I figure at least with the show, I can come on whenever I want. And it's kind of nice to be able to do that. So it gives more people time to get notifications because sometimes notifications, people don't get them until it's 10, 15 minutes into the show or even later. So, see, short power. uh, I'm never shown your videos. I have to come across them even though I'm subscribed. See, that's the kind of thing and then if my videos are not being promoted anymore on a regular basis, then you may never see them. That's why if people really want to see my content or any other channel that this is happening to, you've got to go check in at least Monday through Friday for me because every Monday through Friday I have videos publishing, and it's been that way for 8.5 years. Well, I'll take that back. I mean, that's the average because when I first started my channel, I was putting videos out every day of the week. And then I don't know how long I was doing that before I decided to back off to 5 days a week. And then for a really short time, I backed off to 4 days a week. And I'm like, it's not a good idea. And I went back to doing 5 days a week. And it's been that way ever since. So, but yeah, if you know what a channel schedule is, you're not seeing their content, just go check in. So I'm going to go ahead and get started without Mr. Rain. He will join us, I'm sure, at some point. So let me do my greeting for the standalone video. Hello, everyone. Heidi here from Rain Country, and hopefully Mr. Rain soon too. God is good all the time. Thanks for coming in and joining us in the live feed or in this replay or whatever it is you're watching. So today we are going to be talking about preparedness and building skills. And so the importance of learning something new. If you don't already know how to do certain things, then it's really important you learn how to do those things. And they can be very, very simple things. Sometimes, a lot of it doesn't mean that just because you build those skills, it doesn't mean it's something you have to do all the time. So for example, let's say you're just crazy busy. You know how to make bread from scratch. You know how to make this, you know how to make that from scratch, but you're having a crazy week or a crazy year in your life and you got to just kind of fall back to store-bought stuff. Don't feel guilty about that. I mean, you still want to look at the most healthy organic food you can find at the store, but don't feel guilty about that. Sometimes we all got to do that to a degree. However, it is important to make sure you at least know how to do this stuff. It's like, I know how to do sourdough. I know how to take my fermentation starter and make bread out of that if I can't get dry yeast. I prefer using dry yeast. Sourdough, we enjoy it to a degree, but that kind of thing. And, in the fermentation starter, I can make it so it's not real sour and I can get a really nice flavor, but it takes a while. And if I want something faster, I'm going to use yeast and regular dry yeast. But at least every so often I'll practice with these things so I can make sure I know how to do it in case I don't have access to the dry yeast. But I can make a fermentation starter of a little bit of sugar, water, and whatever herb or fruit I have on hand. It can be dried or fresh. And then I can use that to make kimchi or whatever it is I want. That's fermented, a fermented fruit juice or whatever. I've even made like a fermented herbal tea before and then drank it cold. And that was pretty good. One that I haven't done, I did a video on this years ago. I haven't done it in a long time though, because I keep forgetting about it. But I made a fermented calendula soda. So I infused the calendula flowers and then, added some sugar and just sugar and water and then the calendula flowers and then my fermentation starter and then let it sit for a few days until it was fizzy. So it was just a really yummy, healthy probiotic drink. So, yeah, I mean, I like sourdough. Not all the time and not for everything. So we both prefer my basic yeast bread recipe that I've been making yeast bread since I was in my mid-teens, but then perfecting my own recipe through the years. and finding what I like best. So, okay. So let's talk about some of these skills that I recommend you learn, even if you don't want to have to use them all the time right now. At least have the know-how and get some practice in. So, learning how to sew. And these, by the way, even though I'm going to start with the skills that are kind of typically more associated with women, as well as then talk about skills that are more typically associated with men, both sides need to learn how to do all of these skills. Well, I shouldn't say all of these, but at least have a basic understanding. So learning how to sew, it does not mean that you have to necessarily have a sewing machine, because you can do a lot of, you can sew your own clothes by hand. Is it going to take longer? Sure. But not as long as you might think, especially as you get practice working that needle and thread. And I did do a video a while back on some just like 3 basic hand stitches. So there was one year, a lot of you may not know if you're newer to my channel, that part of the reason I have this big room is because it was my former dance studio and martial arts studio, because I taught both, especially the dance. That's where I really got started, because I was a dancer from the time I was 5 and up. And we had put on these big shows every year, and I would design and make a good amount of the costumes, sometimes 75 to 100% of them, depending on the show. One year, my sewing machine, it was just a cheap sewing machine, decided to bite the dust, and I didn't have the money or time to worry about buying a new machine. And I still had a whole set, 12 sets of costumes. It was pants and a top, because it was for the little Russians for the Nutcracker. And I still had all those to make, and I did them all by hand. And I was thinking, this is going to take me forever, because I had to make a dozen sets. And I was surprised at how fast it went. And that wasn't the first year that had to happen. I had to do that. There was another year I had to do that with something else, another set of costumes. So having the basic skills to sew by hand and not depend on my sewing machine was definitely a good thing. And obviously, if you're looking at more off grid, not having to worry about having power, sewing by hand is important. I mean, you can patch things, you can stitch up holes. There's so much you can do. And then looking at having, going up the next step, I recommend it's going to be an investment getting yourself a treadle machine, because then you can get a lot done with a treadle machine without any power. I've been using my treadle machine. I think when I was looking in because I got it through Amazon, so it's the Genome T712. And when I bought that, because my other sewing machine again was buying, it seems like I'd go through sewing machines like every couple of years, because all the costumes and all the sequins and everything, it was so hard on it. I was using this one for making costumes and denim quilts and all kinds of stuff, and it has held up beautifully. No issues with it, other than needing a cleaning every so often that Patrick typically will do. And so, yeah, so I bought the treadle machine from Amazon back in 2013. The table, I was blessed to have been gifted with that years ago, long before I even had a treadle machine, by my mother-in-law, because she didn't need it anymore. So now I was so glad it was actually a treadle table, because that's where the biggest expense is getting yourself the treadle table. If you buy one brand new, like through Lehman's, it can be pretty expensive. I don't remember what the cost is, but a lot of times you can find the old ones, like this one here. It's an old Singer. Um, you can find them on Facebook Market, sometimes garage sales. A lot of times estate sales are a good place to find them, and not pay a whole lot of money for it. So maybe $100 or so. Seems like the one on Lehman's. I could be wrong, so I might be misquoting, but just in case, seems like the one I saw in there was $1,000, which I can see. All the woodwork, the metalwork, and everything that goes into it. It'd be costly to build something like that. And then you got, the time that goes into it. Linda says, I wasn't too happy that my early childhood years were mostly off grid. but really appreciate it now. Right. When you're a kid, sometimes you think, man, I really missed out on this, that, and the other thing. And then you get older and like, man, I'm glad I missed out on some of that stuff because I learned things that I wouldn't have known otherwise. It builds character as well. And I'm quite the character, I'll tell you. So, what else about so along with the sewing, I mentioned mending. Well, you might have noticed in the thumbnail, I had a picture of one of Patrick's sock darners and some socks that I had darned. This is before I started buying the Darn Tough and Grip 6 socks that last forever, but even over time, they can still get holes in them. Well, what if, even though they're like guaranteed for life and you can send them back and get a new pair, what if things are you're in a situation where that's just not possible? Learning how, and you can't run out and buy new socks. Knowing, excuse me, knowing how to darn socks, it's not that hard, but a lot of people just don't really understand the basics of it. They think it's a matter of sewing the two sides together and then they end up with a lump and they're like, "Oh, that's so uncomfortable." That's not how it's done. It's You're basically weaving a section. And some people do actually, and this is a really great idea I haven't tried, is they might take a chunk like a heel or something from another sock. Though I guess the reason that wouldn't work for me is that I'm always wearing the first part that typically wears out in my sock is my heel. So I don't know what sock I would take it from, but because I wouldn't want to cut up a good sock just for the heel. But yeah, some people have talked about taking, other socks and taking the heel and then stitching that on there, just making a whole new. And yeah, that way you would do like a regular, like a whip stitch, I would think would be good because you'd be sewing it around the outside. But anyway, and by the way, if you're interested in Patrick's sock darners, he doesn't have, I don't, we might have one over there. Every now and then he'll make several and have them on hand, but a lot of times that's something he'll make as a custom order. And yeah, you can always just contact us, raincountrymehomestead@gmail.com, and I'll send you the product list. I think the sock darners are in there. Anyway, yeah, I actually enjoy darning socks. It's kind of a relaxing thing to do. But I do have a video on how to darn socks. And if I would have thought of it before I started the live stream, I would have put all those links down below. But at least in the video I get out of this, I'll make sure I get those links in there. If you don't know, but yeah, learn. I mean, you got to be able to mend clothes, your own clothes. If something happens and you get a big hole or sleeve rips out or something and you need to fix it because you can't afford to go buy a new whatever, or that new whatever isn't even available to get. So then moving on to this kind of fits right in there is I recommend learning how to either crochet or knit or both. I tried to work on knitting and I'm like, it's just not my thing. Maybe someday if I have time. I love to crochet. I love the fact that I only have to have one hook, and my other hand. I obviously use my other hand when I'm crocheting, and I have a whole series of how to crochet. I love it, and I can make anything that. I mean, knitting makes a different type of stitch that's good for certain other things. But I've made myself quite a few sweaters. I've made all kinds of baby sweaters, mittens, well, I haven't made gloves. I've made mittens, um, aside, and then scarves, hats, and all that kind of stuff. And I love Afghans like crazy. I've just made a ton of Afghans. We have a bunch of Afghans around here that I made, but I've also gifted many. I've put I don't know how many into auctions because it's a way I can just give back to the community because there's a couple of different community related auctions that go on around here. And yeah, so that can be really helpful if you're needing to be able to make things to keep people warm, yourself, your family, and so on. And along with that, I do have a spinning wheel. Another thing that I have not had time to sit down and figure out how to do. It's actually for more of a flax spinning wheel, and it is antique. I figured even if I never learn how to use it, it's beautiful and I love it and it's a great piece. I love antiques anyway. So, but yeah, learn how to spin if you have access to materials needed to spin, be it wool or flax, alpaca, whatever, and then weave. So Diametra, I think that's her name. I don't know if she's in here. I think she's in Australia. I think she's from Australia. She does some really beautiful work. She has her own loom and she weaves. And there's also um Scott Williams. You might see him in there. Him and his wife have like a carding machine. And anyway, they've really been getting into that kind of thing. So it's pretty cool. Um, yeah. So there's just it doesn't mean you have to learn how to do all that stuff, but I think if you at least pick something to start with, that not only can be something you can do for yourself in hard times or for your family members, it can also be something you can use to barter with. So if somebody says, "Hey, I really need a hat, and can I trade you one of your lovely hats and gloves or scarves for a whole bunch of goat milk or cow milk from our own animals here?" I mean, I think that's a great deal. I love being able to barter. I've bartered with my homemade skin cream, with herbs from my garden, just eggs from our chickens, for all kinds of different stuff. And so it's, having some kind of skill or way to do something, at least where you can be able to barter with somebody else that has a skill that you don't have or something that you don't have access to. That is super, super important. So, like I said, it's not that you have to learn all of these skills, just pick something that suits you. And then hopefully that can be something down the line that not only you can use for yourself, but you can use to buy other things. So, one thing I do, because anybody can do this, one thing I do recommend if you haven't started doing it yet, and like I said, I'm going to say it again, anybody can do this. I know some people say, oh, my first attempts were failures. Well, then try again. Making vinegar is so easy to do. And and it's so cheap to make. So, as you guys, anyone who's followed me through the years, you'll know that I make all kinds of vinegar. And I make it based on what I have a lot of or what kind of scraps I'm producing. So, when we had these apples coming in, I was trying to use as much as I could because I didn't want to put up a bunch this year. Next year, I probably will. I was giving a bunch away and then using it. So I was making all these apple pies and then just taking the peels and the cores and just turn it immediately into vinegar. And in the summertime, I'll make vinegar out of dandelions, calendula, nasturtiums, and rosemary. Those are the ones I typically will use as my hair wash. So this is why I say learn how to make vinegar, because people are like, vinegar? What besides salad dressing, what do you use vinegar for? Well, you can use vinegar for all kinds of things. You can use vinegar to wash your hair with. That is about 95% of the time I'm washing my hair with just homemade vinegar. Well, diluted in water. Every now and then I'll use a diluted Dr. Jacobs soap, Dr. Jacobs Castile soap. I always have a link to them in my description box. Um, I dilute it by quite a bit, like this much soap, like just a squirt of soap in an 8-ounce bottle, top it off with water, shake it really good, and I pour that over my hair. That's only if I feel like my hair is getting a little too heavy, like maybe the vinegar wash isn't, getting enough out. And maybe once a month I do that, once every 6 weeks. But most of the time, I'm just washing my hair with homemade vinegar. If your hair is dry, that's all you'll need. If you have oily hair, you may still need to use some kind of soap. But if you have dry hair like mine, all you need is homemade vinegar. And so that's one thing. You can use vinegar to wash your laundry with. If that's all you got, you can throw that, a half cup or so of vinegar into your laundry, wash your clothes with that. You can use it to wash your dishes. Are you going to get suds? No, but it'll work. You can use it to clean your floors, your counters, your windows, your mirrors. In windows, mirrors, it is best to dilute it a little bit, but I usually don't. Um, let's see. What else? Did I write anything else down for vinegar? No, I didn't even write down a list, but I even have a video on all the many uses of vinegar. You can use them to make oxymills. So if you don't drink alcohol at all and you want to make some kind of medicinal extract, then make an oxymel. You can either make the extract, which is vinegar alone, or an oxymel, which is like a 50-50 blend of raw honey and vinegar, which actually makes it taste fairly decent, where a vinegar extract, especially depending on the herbs you're extracting, can be a little bit nasty. An oxymel is not too bad. The honey, and the honey is really good for you, the raw honey. And so that can, hey, Deep South. I don't know if that's Danny or Wanda or both, but hey, guys, nice to see you. But yeah, I mean, as easy as it is, that's one thing I say everybody should learn how to do that, because it is so multi-purpose and it can cover all kinds of different things. Let's see. Then, of course, another one that's just an obvious one is learning how to cook and bake. I think that's something everyone should learn how to do. It doesn't mean you have to learn how to be, a fancy chef. It means learn how to do your basics. Learn what the basic ratios are. Okay, it's Wanda. Hi, Wanda. I just actually saw the video years ago, kind of popped up when I was going, just trying to do all this maintenance on my channel since they're just killing me here. And I saw that one that I did on your gluten-free cracker recipe. And I'd forgot right at the beginning, I had taken that clip that you had made and then put it at the beginning. I'm like, this is my video. Why is Wanda in there? And I'm like, oh, yeah, that was so long ago. That was fun. That was a fun thing. So anyway, but yeah, just learning the basics. I think once you understand, let's say, for example, if you're making biscuits, pancakes, cornbread, a sweet bread like an apple spice or a pumpkin bread or a zucchini bread or banana bread, you have basic ratios that stay the same all the way across the board. As far as other ingredients, that could vary depending on what you're making. Like biscuits don't typically have eggs in them, but the amount of baking powder you're going to use for that same amount of biscuits is going to be the same as you would use in pancakes or in that sweet bread or in your cookie. Well, maybe not always the cookies. Sometimes cookies have less, but I always just say, okay, that's about a tablespoon. No, a tablespoon is about this much in my hand. I can make up my own recipes because I understand the basic ratios of, if I've got 2 cups of flour, then I'm going to need about a tablespoon of baking powder for this particular recipe, whatever it is I'm making. It's just kind of the standard. Um, Oh, I know, Wanda. It's like I go back and I'm just like, I cannot believe how many videos I have. And I ended up having to remove like 10 or more of my videos because of one of the more recent additions that they've added to the taboo list. And so what I did is I went into my my dashboard and typed in that word, because I'm not going to remember. A lot of times things like that I'll mention in a this and that video. And I was able to pull up a lot more this and that videos. I'm like, oh, there's a whole bunch more. So delete, 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 delete. Some I saved, downloaded so I could edit. And only one of them am I going to re-upload. Or I edit out and re-upload. The other ones, I think I'll just basically reshoot them. So Patrick is coming in. So I have a chair all ready for him. Oh, how cute. Which is timing's pretty good because I'm about ready to get to the guy stuff. The guy stuff. Remember, this is for everybody. Oh. But again, the things that we typically think of, girls typically do this, guys typically do that. So anyway, the cooking and baking, just start with your basics, start learning your basic things. Learning how to make pancakes is one of the easiest things you can do. No bumpy the table. You're making everything shake, and now everybody's going to get seasick. Okay. And then, obviously, start learning how to garden. You can start small, start with a few herbs in a pot. It can be inside, it can be outside. It can be simple. You don't have to go till up your whole yard, if you even have a yard, and just start putting in a garden. Start small. If that's all you can do, that's something. And then at least growing herbs, especially herbs that are going to be good for using for medicine and for cooking, adding flavor to your food. I mean, this is what I think is great about herbs like oregano, sage, thyme, rosemary. These are all great medicinal herbs that are also great culinary herbs. So start with things like that. They're usually, for most people, pretty simple to grow, though things like rosemary in particular doesn't like our climate so well, but I've managed through the years to finally figure out a good place to grow it where it doesn't get too saturated with all our many, 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 many inches of rain. And yeah, so I've got plenty of rosemary now as a result.
Yeah,
So
it keeps the food fatigue down, huh?
keeps the food fatigue down when you can flavor your food and make your own medicines with that homemade vinegar. Oh, I almost forgot, with the vinegar, I also recommend learning how to make your own homemade wine, because wine makes a better tasting extract. And then if you want to go a step farther, which we haven't done this yet, but you do need to either buy or make your own still, so you can make your own spirits to make your tinctures if you're wanting something stronger. And then spirits are also going to be good for other things like disinfecting wounds, disinfecting surfaces, whatever. And
Even if you have a flu or something like that, maybe a little shot of whiskey every now and then is not like you're bibbing it all the time. It just kind of helps with the throat and stuff.
It really does. If I have a really bad cough and it just won't stop, if I take now, I just keep a solution that I make with whiskey or whatever alcohol, and I have a video on this too. It's basically a hot toddy concentrate. And then I can take a little tiny bit of that, put it in a little bit of shot glass, just put a little bit in a shot glass, and then just take a small sip of that and let it try to just sit on my throat. Another thing is making a tincture with like that, using a strong alcohol, a spirit of some sort, and then putting a spray bottle, like the elderberry tincture. That's a really good one. You can spray it in the back of your throat. So not only are you getting the medicinal benefits of whatever herbs that are in there, you're also, the spirit will numb the throat. And that's what helps really curb a cough or even a sore throat. So let me answer a question, and I'll show you some. I see you got a few things, but you can look at my list here and see some of the things I listed that maybe you might want to talk about.
I'm supposed to be able to read this?
Yes. But anyway, while he's trying to read my horrible handwriting, I'll go ahead and address the question. Will dry flour, specifically chicory, work for vinegar making? Yes. Or do they need to be fresh? Nope. Excuse me. Fresh or dried? I just don't recommend frozen. Any fruit, edible herb, vegetable, fresh or dried, can be used to make vinegar. I've made raisin vinegar. I've made mango peel vinegar. I've made peach vinegar out of peels and pits. And no, please don't be afraid of the peel of the pits and the peels of the mangoes. I mean, people kind of freak out about that. If you're allergic to it, don't use it.
Well, you can keep make that stuff out of because raisins are dried,
right?
So if you have dried
in this way a little bit. There we go.
If you have dried fruit and stuff like that, which you can keep indefinitely, you can.
I've even used use
some that kind of stuff.
Well, I haven't made vinegar out of freeze-dried food because it's really expensive, but because I do stock up on a few freeze-dried fruits so I can have them on hand, since there are things that we can't grow, like bananas and pineapple. But I've made fermentation starters out of it. But so freeze-dried will work too. So dried, freeze-dried, or fresh, but freezing. This surprised me, because I started getting more and more suspicious. I remember years and years being told that freezing food will preserve more nutrients than any other food preservation method. Well, that's actually not true. It's actually the one that destroys the nutrients the most. I was kind of blown away, but then again, not really, because just in my experience of working with frozen things and then trying to ferment them into vinegar or whatever, they never work near as well as fresh or dried. So that should tell you something there. Do you dilute your vinegar? Yes. Like I said earlier, you might have missed that part. I dilute it. But you can go look at my hair care video where I talk more in depth about that. In fact, I think I did a newer video this last year about why I use how and why I use vinegar to wash my hair with. And that one, I think the thumbnail picture was vinegar I'd made with forget-me-nots that come up wild in my garden. But yes, I do dilute it. So just about that much in an 8-ounce bottle, quarter cup tops, top it off with water. I think I said it earlier. Maybe I didn't. Patty, if I didn't, I'm sorry. I thought I did. Maybe I'm thinking of the soap when I use the Dr. Jacobs. But anyway, so well, I've been rinsing my hair with diluted vinegar because of you. Oh, cool. Do you still have the video on making gluten-free? I do. It's on there. It's I think it even has Wanda's name in there somewhere. It was using almond flour. And make sure you use parchment paper, not wax paper like I did in that, because I was dumb enough at the time to not realize there was a difference between wax paper and parchment paper. And all I had was wax paper. I thought they were the same thing for the longest time. I thought there's different names people gave them. Let's see. What about using frozen fruit to make wine? Okay, let me say this. If you do use frozen, because I use frozen grapes, because I freeze my grapes because they're a lot easier to crush after they're frozen. The difference is that I'm adding my fermentation starter to it to get it fermenting. If I didn't add the fermentation, you can do the same thing with vinegar. So if you do want to make vinegar out of frozen stuff, you can do it, but you'll need to add a fermentation starter to get it going, because a lot of that beneficial bacteria and yeast that you need to get it going has been killed in the freezing process. So yeah, you can do it. You just got to use a starter. Okay, I'm going to let Mr. Rain talk, and then we'll get back to some questions.
First of all, I owe everybody an apology. I lied to you last time I was in here.
Lied.
I said that I didn't have a hand plane. Well, I got to digging in the bottom of that box, and lo and behold, I found a cute little hand plane. It's just a small one.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah, it's made out of metal. So a little Stanley. I don't know how old the thing is. It looks like it's pretty old. I just came across it. Yeah. So anyway.
So he has it. So if you missed last week's live show, and I actually did make a separate video that we'll publish later, where Patrick was talking about hand tools, things that don't require electricity.
Now the second thing, that's the only thing I got to apologize about.
That's it, huh?
Other than being wrong. Here's the question of the day. All right, somebody being smart.
Yeah, Deb.
Gasp. Oh, Debbie. All right. What is this?
I do not know.
Anybody know?
No, any guesses in there?
What that is? Here's another one. Same box. This one doesn't have the little.
I don't even have a guess.
I'm shaped a little different on the bottom.
Bottle opener? I don't think so.
And then here's one. Looks like it's out of cast. Something, this is like a.
No idea.
Comes from the store or something.
You're talking to the wrong crowd, I guess.
Well, I was hoping you guys could help me out, because I don't know what they are either.
Oh, really? I think I remember.
I think they're little gauges of some kind.
What did they come with?
They just came in that box, that box of old tools that I got from that guy. He didn't know what they were. Torture device. That's what it is. Thank you.
I'm sure we can find ways to torture each other with that.
So anyway, they're shaped a little differently. These handmade ones here.
I don't think it's a tooth extractor, though.
No, it's not a tooth extractor. I don't think, but maybe it is.
Probably said some kind of clear. Maybe you'd know what that means.
Come on, what?
Clear.
Like
some kind of clear, maybe. Is that a woodworking related thing? Horseshoe remover? That's a pretty good guess. Maybe to do work with leather or making shoes.
Some kind of clear, maybe.
Oh, cleat. She meant cleat. It was a typo.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what these things are. I mean, they're handmade. Somebody made them by hand. This one's a little different. Starting to get used to that camera a little bit. This one's got a little place maybe to hold with your thumb and your finger.
I don't think it's on lid. See, lid remover level. I would think it would be, specific to one of those tools that he got for. It could be woodworking, could be metalworking, could be leather.
To me, it just reminds me of a gauge or like a set for some reason, but it, like for a blade set. But I don't necessarily think so, because that'd be quite a bit of set
for something to do with logging. Patty asked, since we, we live.
I just don't know.
Logging capital of the world. I think.
I could, after you guys give me some great ideas, I might be able to pursue that a little bit and see. There's no, like I said, these are handmade, and this one here is cast. But
tools.
I think that they're all the same kind of thing.
A whatchamajig. Yeah, that's what it is.
A doodad.
So
anyway, what do you want me to talk about?
Well, we're just talking about. I'm just talking about like just different skills. I've already covered these, so I didn't know if there was anything in those.
Well, I don't have any skills.
Three right there. Yes, you do. Everybody knows you do. They've seen my kitchen cabinets and this lovely oak countertop.
I suppose anything that you learn how to do by yourself, for yourself, with yourself, and you can save a lot of money. Sometimes if you, just as general terms, but generally a good excuse for me to buy a tool is to tell Heidi, hey, I can make this, and I can make it by myself for you. She's always so, but truthfully, if you can figure out how to do it yourself, and I'm not a professional mechanic or fabricator or carpenter or woodworker or none of those things, but usually I get things to stick together when it comes to welding. My welds might not be pretty, but they work. They're functional.
Cody,
what are you saying? What do you got? What do you have to say?
Saying hi, everybody. Hi, everybody.
So yeah, we don't go to
I'm not reading your mind right now.
Well,
so I can't tell you what you're thinking.
I thought about this earlier, and it made sense to me. But we don't go to Hollywood. We don't go to Disneyland. We don't go to
Vegas.
We don't go to Vegas. We don't go to the Mocha stand or some of those things. So any monies that you can save, $1 here, $1 there, can add up to buy any simple tool that, you can do like me and have it sit around your shop.
So let me make sure that Mr. Rain knows the basic idea of the point of this is that we're looking at, preparedness as far as building skills so that in case there isn't somebody there to do it for you, or you need to be able to do it yourself, not just to save money, which is obviously great, but also, like some of the things I was sharing was like as a source of barter, or even, obviously just taking care of it.
I guess I was getting into that, and maybe I digressed a little bit, but
I'm just making sure.
I guess, a lot of people are going to say, well, and that's all fine and good to have skills, but you had to have tools to do it. Yeah, you do. So I was kind of leading into that. That's fine. Leading into that by saying, well, gosh, I can't afford this and I can't afford that. I got this little hand plane for free. As far as hand tools, people aren't really looking for them anymore. So you can go to a garage sale or Facebook Marketplace or one of those other places and find people that have tools and then you learn how to use them. again, any skill, as in carpentry, woodworking. If you get your own solar stuff, you have to be your own electrician. You have to be your own technician. You got to be your own. When you do stuff yourself, you got to be your own plumber. You have to be your own
electrician.
Yeah, you got to,
if you have electricity.
Any skill that you pick up and you're trying to be more independent, the more you have to learn. You just can't get on the phone and say, hey, my widget ain't working anymore. Can you come fix it? So along with that knowledge comes the responsibility and the tools to make that happen. I guess it's kind of where I'm going. Maybe I'm scattered all over the place here, but
you're doing good.
But yeah, I mean, having skills, I think probably the most priority is, what are we looking for if we don't have power? What are we looking for in a grid down or a prepping situation? We want to be fed, we want to be warm, we want to be clothed, we want to have shelter. So how do you maintain those four things? And I just threw four things out there, but obviously there's more that tag onto that. You have to be your own nurse, your own doctor sometimes.
Yep.
So just if you don't know those skills, maybe you can get some literature, some hard copy books and things like that can help you learn those skills later on during that grid down situation. If you don't have the internet and you don't have the television to look at, maybe you can look at a book. And preferably we have a good basis of how to plug a hole in ourselves if we cut ourselves, and how to disinfect a wound and things like that before we go into that situation. So we have the basics down. You might have to figure out how to be a surgeon later on down the road. You know what I mean? So any general skills that you can pick up, and just basic electronics, basic battery functions and how they work and how they hook them up, how you hook them up. Simple things like oil changes and changing your own tire, and just really simple things can save you a lot of money, and it also help encourage you to be able to, well, let me see if I can change out a wheel bearing on a car. Some of those things, or a fuel pump or a starter or whatever. Some of those general things I can do, and I was never taught that. I just figured it out. I just okay, well, looks like these two bolts on this flange have to come off, and so I'll take those off, and this wire needs to come off of here, if I'm changing a starter or something. Those things are actually pretty simple, and for somebody who doesn't know how to, anything about mechanicking skills, would look at that and it would look daunting to them. But, the thing's man-made, so you can look at that and say, I can do this. I rebuilt hydraulic pumps and different things like that, and I just carefully take them apart, look at the parts, carefully put them back together again, and sometimes they work. Well, I mean, the hydraulic pump that I rebuilt for the backhoe, it worked great. So
yeah. So several people have mentioned books, printed materials. Yes, absolutely. And
right.
Patrick actually, in one of our previous live shows, went over some books that he has on hand, the kind of things he recommends, like for carpentry and whatnot. And even though he doesn't really use that stuff, he just kind of like me, he just digs in and does it. Learns while he's doing. So experience is a good one. And then several people keep mentioning duct tape and grease or WD-40. So the general rule of thumb is, if it sticks and it shouldn't, WD-40. If it doesn't stick and it should, duct tape. But I also like using electrical tape for certain things too. Electrical tape works good for things that duct tape wouldn't work as good for, and vice versa. So we keep a lot of electrical tape and duct tape on hand, and various different types of lubricants, you know, your WD-40, and then he's got his greases for his that blue junk and all that other stuff. Whatever that all that is.
Keeping greases, you know, different types of greases and oils, extra filters, you know, things like that you know you're going to have to change out quite frequently. Or if you get a leak or something like that, you need to be able to replace that. Antifreeze and what do we got going on?
Oh, I just saw I'm sorry, I'm always afraid I'm saying her name wrong. Diametra. I was just talking about you earlier in your weaving that you do. So I'm glad to see that you stopped in. Anyway, sorry.
Well, you know, knowing how to sew and how to, if nothing else, how to mend what you have.
Yep.
I mean, I know how to do basic stitching and things like that. I learned that from my mom, and they actually taught that in the military. Lena had a little sewing kit with my military gear, but you know, things like that. I mean, that'd be a good thing to put in a bug out bag or something too.
With that said, I want to add something I'm thinking about, because I don't think I've ever said this. So even though long before I met Patrick, I mean, while I was a kid, I was learning how to cook and bake, and I was pretty much teaching myself. Not that my mom didn't cook. She didn't do a lot of baking from scratch. So, and I loved homemade pies, and I loved homemade breads and things like that. So I basically had to teach myself how to do those things. But there were things that we just never, things that we didn't really eat, like biscuits and gravy. I was never a big fan of biscuits and gravy when I was young. And so when I met Patrick, he's like, do you know how to make, when we got married, I think I don't know how it came up, but biscuits and gravy came up, and I'd never made it before. I made biscuits, but I hadn't made gravy. I'm like, what kind of gravy? What do you make it out of? Well, we got in the kitchen together, and he goes, well, this is what I remember, because he used to just watch his mom in the kitchen. He goes, this is how I remember mom doing it. And so based on actually what he knew from just watching her, not even doing it himself, and then, you know, showing me, I figured it out. And now it's like, knowing that, I can make all kinds of different gravies, especially white sauces that you can use in place of things like store-bought canned cream soups, you know, cream of mushroom, cream of celery, cream of whatever. You can make it yourself. It's so easy and very, very cheap. So, and the principle is pretty much the same.
Right. Yeah. So having any familiarity, being familiar, you know, just surface wise of different skills is probably good enough for now. To be an in-depth mechanic, learning how to repair a small engine is a really good skill to have. Knowing how to identify some of the basics, you know, keeping extra plugs on hand, starter rope. Even you can buy little cheap carburetors on the internet for pennies on the dollar. Carburetors or carburetor kits or priming bulbs. I got all that stuff squirreled away in the event that I need to check those things. So like on a small engine, if you don't have an engine that runs, first thing I do is I if it hasn't ran for a long time, it's been sitting outside, then I go right for the sediment bowl on the carburetor. I drain that out, you know, get any water, any gunk out of that thing. Second thing is I put that back in. I smell the gas to see if it smells bad. After a while, you kind of understand what bad gas smells like. And if it smells bad, a lot of times I'll just dump it out and put new gas in it just to get that behind me. And then the second thing I'll do is I'll pull the spark plug and put the spark plug wire on it and put the, you know, spark plug electrode or the end of it on the ground of the head of the lawnmower or whatever it is, and pull the cord, start a cord, and see if it has a spark. Yeah. So if you got spark and you got fuel, generally that's your big problem, and the fuels these days they don't last that long. So I like to get the non-ethanol fuel to put in like lawnmowers and small engines. And see, I like to keep a lot of extra saw mix, for 2-to-1 or saw mix for chainsaws. For anyway, I guess I'm just rambling right now. So
somebody was asking if you have ever tried to make oil for engines from I think she means old fry oil. So
like diesel. You can do that. I don't have the equipment to make like biodiesel out of old fry oil. It's a process. I think you need some like sodium hydroxide and different things like that. And you got to heat the stuff up and go through a process to make it. It ends up being kind of expensive to do it, but you have to have a pretty good. I think it's sodium hydroxide. I think you got to have a pretty good, volume of that stashed away. But I have looked on the internet, like on Facebook Marketplace and different things, and have looked into perhaps purchasing something like that eventually. But there's a lot of people out there that actually use the waste oil for heating and different things too. So no, I haven't made biodiesel. I think that's probably what you're asking me.
That's what I'm assuming too. So
you can also use that for heating your home or having a waste oil heater. I have all the stuff to make a little waste oil heater on these. I have a couple of little miniature tent stoves made, they're stainless steel. And I was thinking about building a little waste oil burner out of one of those, but I have so many things in my mind that I want to.
He has so many projects
create and do, but
and I have so many projects for him.
Takes money and time.
Projects. So a couple other topics that to look into is, obviously, at least maybe get some basic knowledge of, in this case, definitely having some books on hand, watching as many videos as you can, is be something like animal husbandry. If you're not to that point where you've got livestock yet, or you can't have livestock, just because you live in an apartment now doesn't mean down the road you might be in a situation where this kind of knowledge would be helpful.
Yeah, never lose hope in a goal.
Right.
Right now you might not be able to, you might not see that end of that tunnel, but quite honestly, I never dreamt that we would be in a place that we are, and we still got a long ways to go. We have so much to learn. We've made a lot of mistakes, but
we've learned through a lot. I've
just never thought we'd ever be where we're at today. But that's because we have really put our nose to the grindstone. We haven't sat around and not pursued it. And I some things that I'm trying to be PC here, but
please,
you can't get anything done by not doing, is what I'm trying to say. And
we can sit around and wish we knew how to do something, or we can jump in and learn.
Right. And I'm not the best at speaking, or I'm not the best at learning. It takes me a long time to pick something up. I'm more of a hands-on kind of a guy. If you show me by doing, that's kind of where I pick up more things. I'm not much of a bookworm, but
he's a tactile learner for sure.
Yeah. But anyway, the persistence, if you have persistence and tenacity, That's going to take you a long way. And I think that's, with her brains and my ignorance, just getting out there and getting it done, I think that's kind of what's got us where we are. Not like I say, we're not the end all in knowledge. We're
definitely not.
Definitely, that's not what I'm trying to say. But I say that with, I don't want anybody to think that we're ever tooting our own horn or bragging. We're just here trying to share with you. We're learning things from you too, just like, trying to figure out what these little things are. I don't know what they are. I'd be interested in knowing, if nothing else, just curiosity. But if we learn from each other, that's why we're here. We're here to learn, just like you guys are, and hopefully we can glean information from each other.
Right.
When it comes to prepping, I don't think any of us have it figured out 100%, because I don't know if any of us have been forced into it. If you stop and think of it, it's almost like a hobby in this country, anyways, in the United States. And other countries, it's a way of life. In the 30s, and clear up till the 30s, it was a way of life.
Right.
Prepping was not. You didn't think of it as prepping. You just, we're just living. We're surviving. We put food up. We have a root cellar because we need it.
I like what Diametra said here, is everyone is a teacher and everyone is a student. So
Right.
true, because everybody has some kind of knowledge.
Yeah.
Some kind of skill. I mean, I have learned so much just from my followers since I started my channel, that I've been able to then incorporate into the things I do and then turn around and teach that back. And so, it really is kind of a win-win. And, when you can, and that's something too, maybe you don't have the physical ability to do some of the skills, the things that are already in your head,
Right.
because maybe you're crippled up, you're elderly, whatever it is. And one time you did do that stuff, but you still have this up here. There's a lot up here that we can tap into in the older generation, and
Right.
They are useful. We need them.
Necessary.
They are necessary. Thank you. That was a much better word. And if you're one of those people, then that is something you can do, is pass this knowledge by sharing this information with your loved ones, with your family, with your friends, at least those willing to listen.
Right.
And I don't know if you guys have ever watched the movie The Postman with Kevin Costner. It's one of those, what do you call it? Post-apocalyptic sort of movies. And I've always loved that movie. Well, there's this part where he goes up to this older guy, and he can't really, I think he was crippled too. And
or he couldn't move around very well.
He couldn't move around really well. And so he asked him, well, what do you do around here? And he's like, well, physically, he didn't do much, but he had a lot of knowledge up here. Well, he ended up having to tap into that knowledge. And so it was.
He said,
I can't remember.
So what do you do? And he goes, I know stuff.
I know. That's what I know stuff. And that stuff that he knew was useful.
He was an old military guy or something like that, and all stoved up and kind of limping around. And but he had knowledge. He had a lot of knowledge, and I mean that's just a good example. I mean it's just a movie again, but you can pick things up from those little movies because they have professional people that they consult. Not that it's a real deal, but
but the situation is real. That there's
right.
people that have knowledge that we can tap into, and that's why I mentioned that, because I love that part in that movie where I know stuff, and he most certainly did. So anyway, that was really kind of it for the topic of today. We've actually already spoken for an hour, so I'm going to have a lot of editing to do when I take this piece out. But that's okay. I wanted to cover a lot of that and just kind of give you guys some food for thought when you're thinking about skills. There's so much more that could have been covered of the types of skills, but the idea is to sort of get your mind going, get you thinking about, okay, what is something that I depend on others to do for me that maybe I could learn how to do myself? And it could be as simple as making your own mayonnaise. I was thinking about this again when one of Zach's most recent videos, when he was talking about how now they've changed the ingredients in a popular mayonnaise brand. And people are kind of freaking out. It's like, making homemade mayonnaise is super easy, super easy. And I have a video on it. And I know a lot of other people do as well. And so I haven't had to buy mayonnaise in years. I got eggs from my chicken. Chickens. I use coconut, a combination of refined coconut oil and avocado oil and some seasonings and a little bit of homemade vinegar. And I've got mayonnaise. You got to blend it properly or it won't turn out. But yeah, I mean, the point is it's easy. It takes me like 5 minutes to make mayonnaise. So at any rate,
I have a question. Is there anything out there that you guys would like us to cover in more detail? I know I was generically speaking about having skills, anything that you start to do, like solar. Well, if you want to do it yourself, there's a whole lot of learning you got to do there if you get an elaborate system. I'm up at our property taking out trees and building road and all kinds of different things, but those are things that I forced myself to learn. It would have been cheaper for me to hire it done probably, but after I get it done, I'll still have the equipment. But is there, how do you want us to, how would you like us to tailor certain things that you guys might be interested in?
Yeah, I mean, you can either share in comments down, after this video is over, or put it in the chat. I don't see any. I'm missing them.
Hello, Tyler.
But did Tyler finally make it in here?
Finally in here.
I thought I was going to have to kick his booty because I haven't seen him in here in a while. Oh, there he is.
Yep. Send a drone down there to him.
Ooh. But anyway, yeah, you can once the show's over, if you don't get it into the comments or into the chat, you can always put it in comments. Feedback is always good. I get people that have ideas. Sometimes people say, you should do a video on this. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. But, and sometimes I already have videos out there on those things because I have like over 2,300 videos. So I just don't know how many, especially after I had to remove a bunch. But anyway, yeah, we're kind of looking at ways to sort of expand a little bit on our topics and just kind of keep this going and looking at what the best types of topics to keep focusing on that people really want. I'll still be doing some cooking videos here and there, fermenting videos, and of course, vinegar videos, gotta have those. Always making vinegar. So, anyway, but yeah, so that was basically it for the topic. And, I do want to talk a little bit more about the whole channel thing and what to expect. I don't know if Patrick wants to stick around, but he's welcome to if he wants. He might even have his own 2 cents he wants to throw in. But let's see.
It'd just be 2 cents.
Just 2 cents? Well, is that all you can afford?
That's about it. It's about all I got up
Or am I supposed to pay you 2 cents? That one always confuses me.
You can pay me more than that. So.
Let's see. I lost my thing here.
You lost your mind?
Oh, this is the right page. So, okay. So let me go back to, I already started this show talking a little bit about this, but I was mostly going to wait till the end to talk more about it. So as a lot of you already know, I've started a second channel. This is basically going to be a backup channel. I'm still planning on trying to put content there at least one full-length video and maybe a short, taking a short from this channel and putting it over there, to kind of help build it, get it going. I have to have 4,000 watch hours before I can even monetize over there. But which would be nice if I could do that, especially with what they're doing to me on this channel, which I've just been racking my brain and looking at everything I can and watching YouTube, YouTube's own videos on ways I can help bring it back, because it's just dying a slow death and I don't understand what's happening. So in the meantime, I thought it would be best, even though I have my Rumble channel, I know that a lot of people, some people are like in France and other places that don't have access to Rumble. I do know some of those people will use like a VPN and then route it through a different country, and then they're able to watch. I don't know if you can do that. If you have a VPN, like, I actually probably need to reactivate my Surfshark, but you can, when you sign into it, you can route through a completely different country. And when you do that, if you're in a country that doesn't allow Rumble, you can then watch Rumble. But then the other issue is that Rumble doesn't work. It can get really glitchy on some smart devices. And so I know that's an issue for people. And the thing I still like about Rumble is there's topics I can put over there that I can no longer have here. And so, in fact, I have a video coming out in a few weeks. It's a natural healing testimonies video, but it's with topics that people share with me that I can't talk about here. So I'll still be doing that. But at the same time, for the sake of the people where YouTube is just easier for them to use, and the fact that, honestly, YouTube just has better revenue most of the time than Rumble. Rumble just, I think it has to do with the types of advertisers they have and what's been going on there, and them being not allowed to have not even being allowed to have certain advertisers over there. It's just it's crazy how things are getting. So this is the purpose why I'm starting the second channel. So I always have it linked in the description box below. It's simply called Rain Country 2. I was thinking I'd do this maybe a longer name, but I thought, no, I don't want to confuse people. I want to keep it simple. So if you look up Rain Country on YouTube, you're going to find both this channel and the other one. So yeah, I thought that would be a good idea. I know I knew other channels had been doing that, and just learned of some more channels that had done the same thing, just to have a backup, because, you start seeing what's going on. It's like, am I going to be wiped out completely? So I want to have a place where I could then immediately start uploading videos, because I save them over there. If this one, the original Rain Country one, just gets wiped out completely, at least I'll have a channel already built and ready to just take all that content. I need it to be mostly what I put over there right now needs to be unique from here. So I'm not going to duplicate, because then you get all these weird emails say, oh, somebody copied your content and blah, blah, blah. And I think I can just archive that and it would be fine. But that's one thing I do like about YouTube, is they immediately let you know if somebody's copied your content. It's like immediate. And I realized how immediate it was when I took a section of live show out of and make that separate video, and then I put it over there instead of here. It still ended up showing us somebody's copied your content. And I'm like, oh, darn, I was hoping maybe, since it was completely, was edited and shortened and blah, 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 I should have known better. But yeah, it was immediate. So that's why you're not going to see me building up a whole bunch of the same playlists that I already have here until this channel gets taken down. But I need time for that other channel to get built up. So here's a few things I wanted to cover in regards to that. Is that the common question I get, and I'm sorry for those of you who have heard me cover this one 50,000 times, but because there's always new people coming in that have the same question, it is my most asked question. And I'm sure there's going to be people that already know what I'm going to say, because they'll know what that question is. So the most asked question I get is, have you written a book? And then usually right along with that, it's not really a question, is you should write a book, which that one, again, that's that thing. You should do this. I'm terrible. I really have a hard time with the you should thing. And I appreciate the fact that people want a book. And believe me, I understand why people want a book. I totally understand that. It makes sense. But first of all, you got to remember, I see what Patrick's doing. He's going in there on his computer so he can answer questions that way. So he's not interrupting me. Thank you, Mr. Ornane, for doing that. Somebody says here, when YouTube wiped out a friend of mine who depended on much of the income from his hours of YouTube. Yep. It is frustrating when it's like, wow, okay, wow, I'm making enough money now that we can survive off this if we had to. Well, what? Anyway, so the book thing, let me come back to that because I want people to understand. Because somebody came in and they meant well. So if they hear this, I don't want them to be upset with me. I'm not going to say their name or anything, but they came into my second channel and said that, well, you're going about this all wrong. And I'm like, and then started telling me about what all these other channels are doing. And it's like, well, I'm not all other channels. I'm me. And I know what's right for me. And one of the things that I'm constantly stressing is that, okay, one of the reasons I don't want to write a book or books is because I'm always changing things. I'm always upgrading what I do. And I don't want to put a book out that then I'm going to have to edit and then sell another book. Oh, sure. Yeah, I can make more money that way. But would you guys appreciate that, having to keep buying a new book? Because, sorry, guys. Sorry. That information I put in that first book is all wrong. Here's another book for you. Yet when I make videos, the videos don't cost you anything but time to watch. That's it. And learn from. And then whenever I can provide a written recipe, I will. And I can easily go in and edit that recipe when I change things. And it's still not going to cost you more money. So I like that. But so you guys, everybody who wants to learn can learn without paying any money. And then I can still earn revenue for the hours of time that goes into doing that. I love it. It's a win-win. It's just that it's becoming clear that now, after 8.5 years, I may not be able to depend on that anymore. I want to keep doing it. I far more enjoy doing this than I would sitting down and writing a book. That's the other thing. And I just don't have a desire to write a book. And there's so many reasons. But then, and if I want to keep doing my YouTube and Rumble, writing a book is going to take that much more time out of my schedule that I have to prioritize. And there's things in my life that are far more important than me writing a book. My grandbabies being one of those. So I watch my grandbabies as much as, well, the two of them I watch 2 days a week. And the other one I watch another 3 days a week, sometimes 4, depending on the week. So they're important to me. And my schedule is finally has become balanced enough. And this really started happening when I started being good about taking that day of rest on Saturdays instead of working 7 days a week. I'm not so stressed out. And the other 6 days a week, I'm able to get more done. And now I'm finally coming to this point where I can find this good balance between holding down this job, but when my grandbabies are here, giving them more attention, reading a book to them, or playing with them. And that is, to me, that's far more important than me writing a book. Do I think I could make some money off of writing a book? Sure. But that's not what I want to do. And so to me, it's the prioritization of what's best for me. So while I appreciate that people want a book and want something in hard copy, don't forget that whenever I am able, I provide written lists, written recipes. Sometimes you'll find the whole thing just copied and pasted in the description box of whatever video it is. And sometimes it will be in the form of a link that will take you to a free and public Patreon post where you can find that recipe with pictures and whatnot. So I like doing that too. It's just another place I can put written information or photos, and it's still free. You don't have to pay to access my Patreon. You can if you want. It's definitely open, and I definitely appreciate those people that have been good patrons over the years, and they just want to give back. I really appreciate that, but I also understand not everyone can do that, but anyone could be in a situation where they're going to need some of this information I have to share, like this list of herbs that will be good for whatever this health ailment is. And this is all stuff I've been studying over the years. And it's like that's another ailment that I should probably look into and see what kind of herbs and other natural substances are good for helping with this particular thing. Because when we have this list we can choose from, we can rule out the ones we know we're allergic to or won't work for us and focus on the ones that we know will, and learn more about them. And so that's why I provide these lists. That's why I do this work and pull the information together, put it in a list, put it in a video, and then people can just copy and paste that kind of stuff into their own document. So you can basically make your own book, and with the information I have to share. And then if I ever have to edit, I can get in there and edit. And then you can copy and paste a new one, and it just takes you another minute to do, and you don't have to pay any more money. Well, it didn't cost you anything in the first place. Unless you chose to donate, it didn't cost anything for that information. I have lots of folders for gardening, recipes, herb treatments, and weaving. Great. Yeah, right. And Deb says pretty much the same thing in her comment above that. So yes, I do have herb books, and I actually have a new video I have coming out, because Patrick did when in the live show he was talking about his books. I decided it was time to do a new adding to your preparedness library video. And so I'll have that coming out where I cover a lot of the basic areas and the types of books I have on hand. And not that you should necessarily have all the books I have, but at least to give you some good ideas of the types of books that I would recommend, the types. And obviously, like when you're talking herbs, finding the book, like when we're talking regional, the one that's going to suit your area is going to be better. And then you can have, books that may, if you want, that give you recipes, if you're not like me and you just like to make up your own. So, who would you trust more, someone with a degree or someone or from some university that told them what to believe, or someone who has been doing something successfully for decades? Right. It would be the second one for certain. As I keep saying, people, and this is nothing against people that have degrees. Nothing. I mean, I realize there's a lot of jobs that require people to have degrees, and that's important. However, we still have to remember that that piece of paper says nothing about how much they actually care about you, know about you, their experience, nothing, or how well they pass those exams. All it tells you is they just crammed enough to be able to pass their exams to be able to get that piece of paper. It still doesn't tell you about their common sense and how much knowledge they actually were able to retain. I think about me in high school. I remember cramming for tests. So in college too. Cram, take the test. It's like, what was on the test? I don't know. I passed it. That's all that matters. I can't tell you what it was about. The things that stick in my brain are the things that, okay, I'm going to read this. I'm not sure. I'm going to watch this video. Okay. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. I learn best from doing. I learn best through experience, that hands-on, like Patrick was talking about earlier. So I think really that's going to be for most people, like Diametra said several times in the chat about, the importance of just, doing and how we learn from that. And the experience is probably one of the best teachers, because even if you fail, I'm putting that in quotes for a reason, because a failure is only a failure if you allow it to be. If you choose not to learn from that failure, then it was a failure. If you choose to learn from it, like, okay, this was the plan B. Now let's just kind of work on that plan A, like she was saying. It's, that to me is the best way to learn. I mean, obviously we need people to teach us and help us with the knowledge and their experience. And then from there we can build our own experience, obviously. So, what was the other thing I wanted to add in regards to? Oh, I also get people that ask me, well, I should set up a website, or do I have a website? No, I do not. And it's just like the book. I have no desire to maintain a website, especially something that's the free ones are about useless, and it's more time and it's money. I don't want to invest more money into something, especially with what's happening now. This is why I did look at other video platforms, but any other platform besides Rumble and YouTube that I've looked into, costs money at some point to get to a point where you can actually earn money. Even X is the same way. I looked into that. Oh, a lot of people are going to X and putting it costs money. I thought, you know what? I'm going to give it a try for a month. So I paid for a month. I ended up paying for 2 because I forgot to cancel it in time. 2 months to have the X, whatever it's called, premium or whatever. And I get the little blue check mark. Who cares? But I did it to see, is it possible that I could actually make any income here? Because if I can, maybe this would be a good place to put videos as well. I didn't make a single cent. So I lost money on that deal. It's like, not doing it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. I would rather be able to have a free platform where people can get my information for free, that I could then earn a revenue from through the ad revenue. But then here's the other thing too, that maybe people don't know because I don't say it enough, but we do make and sell products. No, I don't make and sell my medicinal products. I have my reasons for that. I personally don't think it's a good idea. I think people need to learn how to make their own rather than buying a medicinal product somebody else has made, because you don't know if that product's going to work good for you, or if there's going to be a certain herb or whatever, you might not know until you use it that you're going to be highly allergic to. So I don't do that. I only make them for us and family members. That's it. But we do sell like the vacuum chambers for vacuum sealing jars, especially those odd jars that you can't use the food saver top on. There's a few other things that I can't mention that we make and sell because, again, it's that topic, one of those topics not allowed on YouTube. I make my own. The skin cream is the closest I have. I do make and sell the skin cream. It's a very popular item. I do some crochet work. There's a few things I will do for people, typically on a more custom order basis, like hats, scarves. I'm not doing sweaters because that's long, extensive, and expensive to do. But I'll do hats, gloves, and scarves and do custom orders. I have a video, you can go look it up, on products that we sell. I'd look for the most recent ones. I think I did within this last year, where I show pictures of some of the hats and gloves and whatnot. I mean, if that's the kind of stuff you guys would be interested in. Oh, I also sell our organic seeds from our own garden, mostly herb seeds. I do sell a few other things like the glass gem corn that I grow myself, are my favorite beans that I grow, which is the Scarlet Runner, and there's like some Sunset Runner beans mixed in there. They're pretty much the same bean. They just have a different color flower on them, where the Scarlet Runner has kind of a deep orange and the Sunset Runner has a peach colored flower. And my Chinese 5-colored pepper seeds, I sell those too. So if you're ever interested in seeing our list of products, oh, and Patrick makes a few things too. The wooden thing, like I mentioned earlier, the sock darner, he makes the vegetable tamper, like for fermenting or whatever. I use mine quite a bit, and a few other things that are in that list. Just email me, raincountryhomestead@gmail.com, and I will just shoot you out the product list and how to order, because I'm no longer on Etsy and will no longer do any kind of site like that. Because that was my problem. One of the main problems with Etsy was how they kept wanting to charge more and then forcing me to pay for advertisement I never wanted. And I couldn't opt out of it. That made me mad. I didn't need their advertisement. And that really made me mad. And I was forced to pay for it. It was just like all of a sudden I started noticing, it's like, what are all these fees going to? It wasn't even a warning given. So I'm like, you know what? I've kind of had it with Etsy. And because they were getting greedier and greedier all the time. It's like the more you sell, the more they penalize you. So I decided, let's just cut out the middleman. How's that sound? We'll just cut the middleman out. Anyway, but yeah, I shoot out the product list and I explain in there right at the top, how to order and the payments that I accept. It's pretty simple. It's pretty cut and dry. So I actually did this past week was pretty good. I sent out a few different things went out this week. It was nice. When I had Etsy though, I had like some days as much as 30 packages going out in a day. That was a lot of work, getting up early in the morning and packing all that stuff and shooting it out, trying to get it all out there. Man. So, but yeah, anyway, so people who want to support us in some means, we do that. I just don't like to push that kind of stuff on people either. And seeing somebody here from Canada, that's something else too, is so normally I'd ship to Canada. Apparently that's an issue now. I heard somebody else saying this recently. I can't ship anything to Canada right now. And I had to stop shipping to the UK too. Sorry. Any place that has a VAT, that requires a VAT license. See, Etsy had a VAT license. I don't have a VAT license and I don't want to apply for one for several reasons. So unfortunately, there's that. But I can still, like Patrick does have, he did type up basically the schematics for his vacuum chamber. And so we're selling that in a digital format for people who want to build their own, and I think it's just like $5 and I just email it to you once it's paid for. It's like, so for those who are overseas that would, want to at least try making their own. Let's see here. I was trying to see if there's any other questions. Yeah, right, Tyler. I was just talking about that recently, about how, they tried to make us believe that Crisco and margarine were better for us. It was all about corporation making money. That's all it was about. They'll convince you of anything if they can make $1 off you, make merchandise out of you. So, and that goes for a lot of things. Gotta be careful what I say, but a lot of things. I'll just leave it at that and let you guess. I still have dog hair on my shirt from that little guy. He's really shedding bad today. I think it's because the sun came out. It's been really cold and the sun came out and he goes outside and I notice that he sheds more when he's getting yeah. Anyway, it came out and went away and it's kind of there now. Okay, so I'm trying to remember people. Sorry if there was something else that I wanted to say in regards to that. I did want to say one more thing as kind of an example. It's a little bit of a funny story, but it's another one of those things where you get people that tell you what you should do. Well, when I first started doing like the crocheting items to sell, a lot of it started mostly just making stuff for people or putting them in the local auctions, like I mentioned earlier. Well, when the stupid Twilight books and movies came out, I had people right and left saying, you should make, because I'd started making little dolls. People wanted me to make them little dolls that look like their husband, their daughter, their whatever, to give as gifts. And that was kind of fun, just tailor making these little dolls and getting as much detail in them as I could. Like this one lady had, her 3 daughters and they were all in these different sports. And she wanted like 3 dolls for each of her daughters, one of each of them in a baseball outfit, one each in like a basketball. I don't know, all something different. And so when people were seeing me making and selling these custom made dolls, they started saying, you should make Twilight dolls. They would sell like hotcakes because you're from Forks. I'm like, I don't want to make those dumb things. I kept saying, I don't want to make those dumb Twilight dolls. So finally, I'm like, okay, fine. I'll give it a try. And I put so much time and detail making the Bella doll, making, they were only like this tall, right? And making little teeny tiny pockets because it was after the second movie came out. She had a little pocket here and she had a little pocket here or pockets here, making these little tiny crocheting all this stuff, making the eyes, everything, the hair. And then Edward, gave him the kind of the hair going like this, and then even made his skin sparkly. And just all this detail I poured into these stupid dolls. Do you think I could sell them for what they were worth and the time that I put into them? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So I donated them to an auction. I have no idea how much money they got out of them. But it was so disappointing. This is why I stopped doing things, because somebody simply said you should. Now, it's different if somebody wants to do a custom order and say, hey, I want this, and they're going to pay me ahead of time. And I'm like, cool. Yeah, I'll do that for you. Because one of the things I used to get custom orders for a lot, what really started it was the hats, the character hats. There were the ear flap hats. I have little braids. And people wanted all these different, somebody wanted Elmo, somebody wanted Kermit the Frog, somebody wanted a tiger, a zebra, whatever. And I would just create the pattern myself and then make these. In fact, in my crochet series, I have within that series, but it's also its own separate playlist. I have a series on making your own custom made character hats, and just give the basics on how to do different types of ears, for kitty cat hats and whatnot. And, how to do the ear flap if you want the ear flap and the braids. And so if you already crochet, I have an instructional series out on that. But yeah, this is all my own patterns. I just would make them up as I'd go. In fact, I had a guy years ago that asked me to make a hat for his girlfriend that looked like their dog. And so he sent me pictures of his dog. And I can't remember. It was a border. It has a name. What is it called? Border Collie. And what's the little stubby dog? I can't think of the name of it now. A corgi. So I think it's called a Borgie. So it was a little stubby dog, but it was black and white, like my Cody. And it had one ear that was always flopped over and the other one was straight up. And then, it had the black. And so I'm like, this is going to be a little bit tricky, but I did it. It was so fun. And I made it work. And I had the little ear flap. He was so happy with that hat. He says, it looks just like my dog. So that was fun. I love doing stuff like that, even though I get scared and a little nervous. I'm sure a lot of you crafty people know if somebody puts in a custom order, it's like, oh, am I going to do it the way they really like? And so far, everybody's been happy with the stuff I've made for them, but it's fun. It's fun. I love being creative and just trying to just make something for the heck of it, and just, something totally different like that. Anyway, well, I should get going. I got to go finish editing a video. I've got to go haul up another 3 gallons of water because we went through a lot of water this last weekend. And usually I rotate the water out, the rainwater, we filter it. And I always have it in 1 gallon jugs. So usually it's only 1 to 2 jugs a day I got to go deal with. But now I've got 4. I got 1 done. I have 3 more I got to deal with. And some other stuff, washing dishes, dinner, vacuuming the floors, all that kind of stuff that you all have to do, and you get it. So anyway, I want to say thank you to everyone who came in here, even if you came in the last minute, or if you're watching this in replay, or if you're watching a separate video that I make out of some of these things and put them over on my Rain Country 2 channel. Don't forget to subscribe to Rain Country 2, by the way. Don't forget. I need you all over there. So hopefully you'll see both of my things. So by the way, that's the other thing I'm using the Rain Country 2 for, is since a lot of people keep missing my content on this channel, keeps getting hidden, I can use a Rain Country 2 to say, oh, by the way, here's this video. I can do a post. Don't miss this video I got over here on the other channel, so on and so forth. So yeah, I'm trying to make the most out of it without it taking too much more of my time, so I can still invest it in those precious grandbabies that I have, which, by the way, I have another one coming, number 4 on the way. So anyway, love y'all. Thanks so much for stopping in. I really, really appreciate this time that we spend together. It really brings me joy. It really, really does. And I will any questions I may have missed here, I will read through them when I get a chance sometime through the week, and I'll probably address them in next week's live stream or in whatever this and that comes after that. So we'll see you all later. And again, thank you and God bless. See you later.